Okay, for today's lesson, you're going to need this sheet that says absolute value equations. So we're going to talk today about equations, but now we are including absolute value. And absolute value, just a reminder, is indicated by these tall looking brackets. There can be a number of terms inside of there. You could have just one term. You could have also pieces outside of that. But today we're going to start off kind of easy ones. So if you look at this one here, it says the absolute value of n minus 3 is equal to 12. Okay, our goal is to isolate this bracket first. And when I say isolate it, I mean there's nothing outside of this bracket that's on the same side of it. Like we don't see a number being multiplied out front here. You don't see a number in the back being like plus 3 or minus 6 in the back. Okay, everything's contained within. So if you have the absolute value bracket isolated, what you do then is you come down and you make two different problems out of it. So you say the first problem is the same one as it looks. You just rewrite it, but remove the absolute value bracket. So n minus 3 equals 12. Then you also create a second problem, but you change the answer to its opposite. So n minus 3 equals negative 12. Okay, and then we have just two rather easy equations to solve. So I'm going to add 3, cancels, n is equal to 15. I'm going to add 3, cancels, n is equal to negative 9. Okay, I can take these and I can very easily check to see if I'm correct. I take those, I plug it back in. So 15, take away 3 is 12. The absolute value of 12 is 12. Negative 9 minus 3 is negative 12. The absolute value of negative 12 is positive 12. So both of those work. Okay, so I can either leave my answer like that, or I can come over here and say n is equal to negative 9 and 15. Okay, number 2. We see that this absolute value bracket is isolated. So at this point, I'm ready to make two equations. So negative 3n is equal to 27. And then I say negative 3n is equal to negative 27. Again, I take the answer and just make it its opposite. So to solve, I would divide by negative 3 on both sides. So n is going to be equal to negative 9. Come over here, divide by negative 3, and n equals positive 9. Double check, see if it works. Negative 3 times negative 9 is positive 27, and the absolute value of that is 27. Plug in the 9. Negative 3 times 9 is negative 27. The absolute value of that is positive 27. So n is equal to a positive 9 and a negative 9. And a lot of times when you have answers like this, they'll write it like this, plus or minus 9. Okay, plus or minus 9 is exactly how you would say it. But that means that n is a positive 9 and it's also a negative 9. All right, you guys go ahead and solve number 3. Number 4. And let's go down to number 5. So now number 5 gets a little bit harder because there's more than one thing to do inside of this absolute value bracket. But again, we start off and ask ourselves, is the bracket isolated? In this case, it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and rewrite this, take off the absolute value. So negative 4b plus 5 equals 5. And I write negative 4b plus 5 equals negative 5. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 5 here. Cancels. I get negative 4b is equal to 0. And if I divide by a negative 4, the answer is still going to be a 0. So b is equal to 0. Come over here, subtract 5, cancels. You get negative 4b is equal to a negative 10. Okay, and then divide by a negative 4. That cancels out. So you get b is equal to positive 10 over 4, because negative over negative. That's going to reduce down to 5 over 2, which is 2 and 1/2. Okay, so we got two answers, 0 and 2 1/2. If I plug that in, 0, negative 4 times 0 is 0, plus 5, absolute value of that is 5. Plug in 2 1/2. Negative 4 times 2 1/2, that's going to be a negative 10. Negative 10 plus 5 is negative 5. The absolute value of that is positive 5. So I do have two answers. B is equal to 0 and 2.5. Okay, number 6. Check it out. The absolute value bracket is isolated, so let's go ahead and write out our two equations. Here's the first one. And put our negative on there, change it to its opposite. There's our second one. All right, subtract 9, cancels. 7v is equal to 70. Divide by 7. And you get v is equal to 10. Come over here, subtract 9, cancels. You get 7v is equal to, that's going to be what, negative 88. Divide by 7. That's going to cancel, so that's going to be v is equal to, it's a negative. 7 goes into 88 12 times. 7 times 12 is 84. So your remainder is 4 sevenths. Okay, so today we're going to have some funky fractions on some of these. So 10 and, so v equals, I'll put my answer up here, 10 and negative 12 and 4 sevenths. Okay. All right, let's go to number 7. You guys do number 7 on your own. Notice they left their answers as improper fractions, so they didn't change it to a mixed number like we did, but just pay attention to that. Okay, do number 8. And let's go look at number 9 now. So number 9, we see this is the first one where the absolute value bracket is not isolated. So in this case, I have to isolate it first, and I need to get rid of this negative 7 that's outside. It's being multiplied. So I'm going to divide by negative 7. When I do that, that cancels. You're left with the absolute value of negative 8r equals, and that's going to be a positive 8. Okay, now this bracket is isolated, so you're ready to write two different problems with it. So 8r equals 8, and 8r equals negative 8. Okay, divide by 8 to both sides. We get r is equal to 1. Divide by 8 over here, and you get r is equal to negative 1. So I can take that, I can plug it back in, see if it works. But I know that this one is going to work. And since I have that r equal to positive 1 and a negative 1, I'm going to put r equals plus or minus 1. Okay, move on to number 10 here. We see this little piece out here is not, it's still attached to this absolute value, so you need to make that go away. So we're going to do a plus 2. So do plus 2 here, cancels, and we now have the absolute value of n minus 7 is equal to 14. Okay, we can make two different problems out of that now. There, we have set that up. Now we just add 7 to both sides. So I get n is equal to 21. Come over here, same thing, add 7. And we get n is equal to negative 7. So if I check it out, they'll work. And then I'll rewrite my answers. N is equal to negative 7 and 21. All right, you guys go ahead, do number 11. And go ahead and do number 12. All right, number 13. So kind of like what we left off on one of the other ones above there. I see the absolute value bracket is not alone. You got this minus 6 there. So let's do plus 6 to both sides. Okay, that cancels. So we got 8k minus 9 in our absolute value equals 17. All right, now we are good to go ahead and write two different equations. So here's the original. And then here's the one where I changed the answer to its opposite. Okay, add 9 to both sides. Get 8k is equal to 26. So divide by 8. So k is equal, I'm going to reduce that down. They're both even, so they'll cut in half. So 13 over 4. Or, let's see, 4 goes into 13 3 times, remainder 1. So 3 1/4. Okay, come over here, plus 9. So I have 8k is equal to negative 8. And then divide by 8. So k is equal to negative 1. All right, so that means k is going to be negative 1, and I'll put my mixed number down of 3 1/4. Okay, look at number 14. So number 14, the absolute value bracket is not isolated because you have this divide by 7 underneath that. So for us to get rid of that, you're going to want to do times 7 out front like this, because if you times 7, divide by 7, that's going to eliminate. And then we come over here and do the same thing, times 7. So this absolute value bracket is now freed up, so it just drops down. You got negative 9 plus 6x over here equals 1 times 7, so 7. Okay, now it's isolated, so I can make two different problems. Negative 9 plus 6x equals 7, and negative 9 plus 6x equals negative 7. Okay, we'd add 9 to both sides. We get 6x is equal to 16. Divide by 6. So x is going to be equal to, I'm going to cut that in half, 8/3, or 2 2/3. Come over here, plus 9 cancels. So you get 6x is equal to positive 2. Then we divide by 6. So x is going to be reduced down to 1/3, or 1/3. All right, so I say x is equal to, I'll put my mixed number, 2 2/3 and 1/3. All right, you guys go into number 15 and 16.